Hi, everyone. I'm kind of just jumping on here because just double checking on my mic. Cool. Okay, as you guys hop on, please say hi. Can you hear me? All right, let's make sure everyone can hear. Okay. I have two of me there. Okay. Okay, Jen, good morning. Can you guys hear me okay? You let me know in the comments if you can hear me. So is it echoing? No, I took that one down. Okay. Hearing you well. Awesome, guys. Sorry about that slow startup here. Let me pull up some more information I wanted to share with you guys. Awesome. Cool. I'm just being fancy, actually. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's live. I'm Amanda Walker. I'm a learning and development coach and parent educator. And today we are going to be talking about whole brain sensory paths. Give me 1 second. I'm going to shut my door. I have got my daughter who works from home in the other room, and I didn't shut the door. Hi, everyone. As you jump on, please say hi to me and let me know what you've got going on today. What does your week look like? How was your weekend? Let me know what's up. I had an awesome weekend. You might have seen some of my pictures. I went up to Zion National Park. There's an overlook off of the I-15. We were going up to help my in-laws. We go up there every couple of weeks to cut wood and kind of stack their wood up because they just live on wood burning. And so we were up, we popped in and saw Zion National Park. We took some awesome pictures. It was pretty awesome. Pretty cool yesterday. It's probably about 35 degrees. We had a great snowball fight. It was awesome. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about sensory pathways and how they connect the focus, emotional regulation, and learning centers of the brain. And honestly, this is one of my favorite subjects. This is what got me started with whole brain connections and what got me started as a coach, as a learning and development coach, and has since broadened out into parent education for kids who are uniquely wired, right? So us families who have uniquely wired kids need a unique kind of parenting, and we need additional help to empower our kids, help them learn how to self-regulate, and to really be successful and happy people. Hi, good morning, everyone. Nice to see you. So, all right, so let's get started. I've got a few things here that I have put together I want to share with you guys, and I might switch back and forth, so I apologize if this gets a little messy. I'm still kind of figuring out how to use two cameras, a computer and a camera, and so it's kind of a new thing for me. Okay, who's excited to learn a little bit more about the sensory pathways and how they can connect the focus, behavior, emotional regulation, and learning of their kids? Let me know if that's something that you're really interested in. Nice, Jen. Tag a friend in today's live and I'll send you a small surprise. Ooh, I love it. That's great. Thanks, Jen. Yeah, if you know of anybody that might be interested in this, go ahead and tag them and invite them to come to this live. It'd be great to have you. All right, so we're at 10:04 right now. I'm going to talk about a couple things first off. So what I want you to know is the ability to be successful both academically and emotionally for our children is closely tied to a child's sense of balance. So when our children have a underdeveloped or over sensitive vestibular system, which is our balance system, it can really affect their learning, their focus, and their emotional regulation. And when I discovered this as my daughter was being assessed and going to different therapies, I was fascinated by this connection of balance. And I was told a story some time ago that in the 70s, early 80s, it was actually quite common that when a child was tested to see if there was school readiness, one of the activities they would be asked to do is if they could stand on one foot and how well they could stand on one foot, if they could skip, if they could do jumping jacks. And these showed the teacher or the evaluator that this child's brain and sensory system were developed to a level in which they could actually sit for a period of time and learn in school. We no longer do that. Our kids, unless they start showing challenges in school, really don't even get referred to anything along those lines unless they start showing challenges or problems. But back in the day, pretty interesting, these kiddos would be tested. So just even for you, something that might be quite interesting is to have you yourself stand on one foot and to see how balanced you feel on that one foot, okay? And so you would want to hold it for about 30 seconds. So right now I'm standing on one foot. I've been practicing. I've been practicing a lot to balance, and that's something that I love. And then after 30 seconds, you would want to go ahead and put your foot down and stand on the other leg. And oftentimes, whichever is not your dominant leg is going to be a little bit wigglier. But you can do this with your child to see how well they balance on one foot. Now, if you really want to test the vestibular system, what you can do is be close to something you can hold on to and close your eyes while you're standing on one foot, okay? Our eyes give a huge amount of stability, and there's a connection between the eyes, the ears, and the tendons and muscles in our body is connected with the vestibular system. And we're going to talk about that. And that's why the vestibular system is connected to learning and emotional regulation and focus. Okay, so that's one little test you could do with your child, is have them stand on one foot for 30 seconds and then also have them stand on one foot for 30 seconds with their eyes closed. And notice how more wobbly they get. Okay, that's going to show you how finely tuned that vestibular system is. And whole brain sensory paths actually help tune the vestibular system. And because it helps tune that up, it improves the child's learning capacity, the child's ability to focus, and the child's ability to emotionally regulate. So that's how it's all connected. The activities on the sensory path give that input that fine-tunes the vestibular system and helps improve in those other areas. Okay, so let's get to the information. Today we're going to be talking about specifically how it affects learning. I'm going to talk about a few things. I'm going to talk about, and I have some handouts for you that I actually already posted in the group, a handout about the sensory system. We're going to also talk about the connection it has to emotional regulation. And I posted an assessment for you, which is basically, it's not a diagnosis. It's not to say anything's going on with your child. It's just something to be curious about and notice if any of the things on that assessment your child is challenged with. Many of us have our kids at home, so we're probably seeing more of this behavior. But this is an amazing assessment that was created some time ago for teachers, actually, to take stock of children who might be struggling because of the vestibular system. And so it's some great information that you can pass along to the occupational therapist in the school or to the parent, so that that child can get the support that it needs in school and outside of school. Okay, so that's been posted. I also posted a visual of the DIY sensory pathway. So I've got a little kit where you can have the instructions and the different movements to create on the floor with floor tape and how they work and why they help the child. And so there's the DIY one, and then I also have a rollout portable sensory pathway that helps in just the same ways, but it's kind of an already done for you pathway that you can just roll out and roll up anytime you want to use it, whether you're in the classroom or at home or at your church or at a community center or at the park. You can just bring in, it's got specific activities that gives inputs to the brain. Okay, that was a whole mouthful. So let's talk about what I have to teach you today. So let me see if I can share my screen. Okay. So let's see. I'm sure you guys can see both of me now. I figured this out one time. So let's see if I can share my screen. I'm going to pull something up real quick. I'm going to pull this one up first. Awesome. Let me close this. Perfect. Can you guys see me there? And what if I do this? Can you see both of us? Okay. There we go. Perfect. I did it. Okay. So let me share with you right now. Let me see if this comes up for us. Yes. Okay. So whole brain sensory paths, connecting focus, emotional regulation, and the learning centers of the brain. So we're connecting all of those. So let me go ahead and read this one to you. So the ability to be successful, both academically and emotionally, is closely tied to the child's sense of balance, right? We said that earlier. We're going to show you why that is. And so first off, we're going to talk to you about the function of the vestibular system. Okay, so here I'm sharing with you, and I think I'm just going to pop over and just let you see this thing 100% so you can see that. And let me take this little guy off. Okay, I put this as a handout in the group, so you can go ahead and print it out. But the vestibular system here, I want to talk about it. Okay, so there's 8 sensory systems in our bodies. They're all working together to integrate the inputs that we get from inside and outside of our body, right? So what do we hear outside of our body? What do we see outside of our body? Okay, that input's going in, it goes through the cerebellum of the brain and is closely tied to the vestibular system. Okay, and I'm going to show you in a few minutes my model of the vestibular system. So the vestibular system is actually inside the inner ear. It is in the hardest bone in the body, and it is connected right to the cochlear, which is the part of our ear that helps us hear. Okay, so we have 8 sensory systems, and they all work together, bringing in input to the body. Okay, the vestibular system is foundational for our sensory system. It is the neurological system in the body that sends signals from receptors in the inner ear to the brain, establishing balance, coordination, and spatial orientation. So spatial orientation is where your body is in space. So if you have a child, as my uniquely wired child was, who did not get the same interpretation of spatial orientation as I did, and she was what we would call a space invader. My daughter, from the time she was very small, didn't recognize that she was standing too close to me or other people in her life because she couldn't feel her body in space very well. So many kids who have an underdeveloped vestibular system are not able to pick up where their body is. And so oftentimes they'll stand close to you. These are kiddos who, if you're sitting at a table with them or they're with their friends in school, they'll reach across in front of their friends and they don't recognize that they're in their personal space. They bump into people a lot, right? They tend to be clumsy. So that's all tied to spatial orientation, where your body is in space. Now, you might be an individual that feels like, I'm not very coordinated either. Like, I bump into things easily. I tend to be sort of clumsy, right? That's also an indicative of not having quite a finely tuned vestibular system. Now, here's the thing. You can always strengthen that no matter where you are in life, okay? So sometimes our vestibular system is working awesome, then we might have an accident, or we might have an inner ear surgery, or we might have some deep trauma that can affect it, okay? But there are activities and things that you can do, and also seeing an occupational therapist that can really help tune up the vestibular system. So it's easier to focus. you have greater balance, you feel more emotionally regulated, and we'll go on to talk about how this connects to making friends and in social situations. Okay, it is a responsibility. So the vestibular system is responsible for integrating one's auditory, tactile, visual, and proprioceptive systems. Okay, so let's just quickly go over the different sensory systems, okay? The first one we have here is the auditory system. We all know that's our ability to hear, okay? The olfactory system is our ability to smell, as you can see the nose there. The visual system, it directs the integration of sight. We've got the gustatory system, which is our ability to taste. The tactile system, which is our ability to feel through our skin. And it's not just the hands, it's our feet, it's our arms, it's our legs, everywhere, every part of our skin. We've got the vestibular system, okay? It directs the integration of balance. The proprioceptive system. Now, for many of you who have uniquely wired kids, you probably are somewhat aware of these different sensory systems, okay? The proprioception directs the integration of body position in space, okay? And basically, it's our ability to detect our body and our muscles and tendons, and they send information to the brain and back, okay? And our last one is the interoception system. This is our ability to integrate our internal bodily sensations, okay? So think about it. Some kiddos, especially uniquely wired, don't always know that they're hungry. They might not recognize that they're tired, right? They might not realize that they even have to go to the bathroom, okay? That's the sensations inside of our bodies, okay? And that can have something to do with their feelings and emotions, but it's also very, very tied to even just the functioning of the inner parts of our body, right? They might not know when they're feeling nervous. They might not pick up that they have a bellyache. Okay, so one of the things I've shared many times is that my father, who is on the spectrum, we just discovered this about 10 years ago that he's on the spectrum, and so one of the things that was interesting to him as we chatted about it was that his whole life he's never really said he's ever felt hungry. He says, I don't ever feel hungry. I just eat because people eat, and I've just learned to eat at certain meal times. He says internally, his interoceptive system isn't really totally online. And so that's something that your child might also struggle with. They just might not ever feel hungry. And so that can affect their behavior because their blood sugar is low, but they don't even know it, right? Okay, so those are all of the different systems, the different sensory systems. So let's go over this a little bit more, and then I'll get back on camera with you guys. So again, it is responsible for integrating one's auditory, tactile, visual, and proprioceptive system, okay? So your hearing, your touch, your visual, and your proprioception, which is your muscles and your body in space, is all connected to the vestibular system. So think about this. When we're standing on the side of the road and we want to walk across the street, we might hear a car coming toward us, which would tell our bodies to not step off of the sidewalk, right? So it's our vestibular system that tells us in what direction that sound is coming. The ears hear the sound. The vestibular system is telling you where it is coming at you. And then with the processing of the cerebellum, it helps you react and sends that impulse for you to make sure that you stay off of that street for that moment, if that makes sense. So they're all connected. Successful integration of the vestibular system is required for students' success in the classroom. Okay, so how does the vestibular system actually affect students in the classroom? A student with vestibular dysfunction can struggle to recognize letters and numbers due to their inability to keep their head, eyes, and body still. Okay, so if their vestibular system is not finely tuned, they're going to have a hard time even just sitting in their chair and focusing on the chalkboard. Okay, it's going to be difficult for them to be reading because oftentimes if the vestibular system is underdeveloped or it's not finely tuned, the numbers when they're doing mathematics aren't going to line up. That's one thing that my uniquely wired child still struggles with, is lining up those numbers so that she can do her math problems. Reading, it can feel like the letters are popping all over the page because when the vestibular system is not finely tuned and its connection to the eyes, the input that's going into the brain and out can be confusing to the child. It doesn't make sense because the letters and numbers are swimming around on the page. Okay, other students with vestibular dysfunction are unable to sit up for sustained periods of time, which can affect their writing and motor planning. These students can appear to be distracted, restless, and off task when their bodies are struggling to sit upright. So that can look like ADHD. They have a hard time sitting in their chair, right? They're having a hard time paying attention. They're having a hard time keeping their head straight, okay? And this last part is students with vestibular dysfunction can be less confident during playtime, which can lead them to feel less emotionally secure. Students with vestibular dysfunction can have difficulties with emotional and physical regulation, which can negatively affect their interactions with peers. Okay, so that's kind of an overview. Let me take this off. That is an overview of all the different sensory systems and what we're going to be talking about today. Okay. I hope that's a great resource for you. You can print it out, have it on hand. You can share it with your child's teacher or therapist, and with the other resources that I have posted that can be helpful in helping to assess your child as well. All right, let me see if there's any questions here. Thank you, Jen, for dropping the links for the sensory pathway and the DIY pathway. That's awesome. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. If you have any questions, please pop them in the chat box, okay? I'd love to answer any questions that you have. And also let me know if you're watching this hashtag live or hashtag replay. Hi, everyone. Okay, perfect. So let's look at this again real quick. How do I get rid of her, of that other person? I don't know. I'm going to just share this next thing because I did it. Oh, I think I can do it the other way. I apologize, guys. Thank you for your patience. I'm going to go to my banners. Perfect. Okay. We talked about that. We talked about this also. So the vestibular dysfunction, okay, so that can mean there's two different ways that it will show up in a child, okay? An underdeveloped vestibular system means that that child can spin and spin and spin and spin and spin and spin, and they never get sick, okay? You can have a child who has vestibular dysfunction that never wants to spin, that is really insecure gravitationally. They don't like to be on, equipment that moves. They don't like to run and play in team sports. These are the kiddos that would much rather just sit in a beanbag and read, okay? And so there's a way to improve that for both of these kids. Let me read something here that I had. We talked about, emotional regulation. The vestibular system is neurologically connected to emotional regulation. And let me tell you why that is. The right hemisphere, actually, of the brain is specialized for the vestibular system. Okay, and it's awareness. And it's also the dominant hemisphere responsible for expression of emotion. Okay, so because it's located in the same side of the brain, it has some effects on one another. The other part of why this affects emotionally is that when you feel insecure and you feel clumsy and you don't know how to skip and you can't ride a bike or ride roller skates, right? And all your friends are doing that. You start to feel emotionally insecure. Socially, you have a hard time because your body just doesn't move efficiently, right? And you just feel like I can't do anything right, or I'm just too clumsy. Or you're playing with kids and you accidentally hit them or you poke them or you're always in their space. And so kids are like, you don't know your personal space. This is not fun to be around you. So there's different reasons why socially they might be more insecure or have some emotional regulation challenges. Okay. When a child feels insecure when they're just walking, there can be this underlying feeling of anxiety when your balance is off, right? If you're feeling insecure and just moving through space, then that can oftentimes create a sense of anxiety, like that you're going to fall or that you're going to do something wrong or somebody's going to make fun of you because you can't do it like everyone else, right? And so it makes it hard for that child to also want to try something new. And this can all be tied back to the vestibular system. Okay, so like I said earlier, the vestibular system is actually located in your inner ear, in the hardest bone of your body. And it's one of the most incredibly intriguing parts of our body. I even got so interested in it that you might have seen this, but I had my own models of the vestibular system made. I made one for the right and for the left, or on the screen, it looks like this would be the right and this would be the left. And they basically go like this. And they're connected, they're obviously much smaller than that, connected to the cochlear on the inner ear. And these are semicircles. They're filled with a liquid. And there's little teeny tiny crystals inside of them. Can you guys see that? I even put little crystals in these guys. There's crystals in these, okay? And what this does is, depending on where the head is and how it's moving, it tells the brain that you're turning to the right or you're turning to the left, or if you're upside down or not, right? Or where a sound is coming from. It helps us to just walk and navigate the world with our eyes. So there's a connection between the vestibular, ocular, cerebellum that helps you walk with stability, to be able to see something and walk toward it, to be able to write on paper in a straight line, right? All of these things connect together to help a child succeed in school. And so you can see how when the vestibular system is not giving the appropriate input, it's a child struggles. Okay. So the next thing I'd like to talk about, because we're already at 10:27, I'm going to see if there's a little thing to read here. We're going to talk about why should the vestibular function be assessed? Okay, and here's a few reasons for you to consider using the assessment that I posted with your child, or honestly with yourself or other people in your life. It's very helpful. Number one, this assessment can help with school readiness for both socially and emotionally ready for school. Okay, so if you have a child who's struggling at school for whatever reason, this assessment could be very helpful in understanding if there is any vestibular dysfunction, and if there is, taking action toward finely tuning that vestibular system through activities at home, by taking them to an occupational therapist, doing things in the classroom that can help strengthen the balance system and their overall functioning. The other part for doing this assessment is for proper sensory integration. So unfortunately, at this time, the general testing of kids and their readiness for school does not include sensory integration at all. In fact, sensory integration disorder is not even considered in the manuals, the medical manuals. Like it doesn't have it kind of has a diagnosis, but not really. But oftentimes, as it shows here in number 3, is sensory dysfunction oftentimes accompanies kids who have ASD, who are on the spectrum, kids who have ADHD, and behavioral issues. And in fact, Sometimes, like we just spoke about earlier, the inability for the child to sit still, to not move, to be able to function in the classroom can actually look like they have ADHD, but it could just be a vestibular dysfunction. So those are all three great reasons to do this assessment. If your child is showing some of these signs, you can, we'll talk about how the sensory path helps with that and talk about how you can get in contact with an occupational therapist there in the school. If you are an educator, some activities that you can do right in your classroom to help tune up the vestibular system. Okay. So let me share the vestibular system screener. I'm going to take that back off again. I'm going to go here. Let's remove that again. All right, I'm going to pull up the second one. This is going to be the screener. Hold on one second. It looks like I closed it for some reason. Let me pull it up, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Okay. Cool. Share my screen. All right. So this is a pretty simple screener, and I'm going to take myself. Can you? I think you guys can probably see that pretty well. I'm going to make it bigger for me, just so that I can see it really well. Awesome. Okay, so here's this vestibular system screener. That's a mouthful for sure. Okay, let me see if there's any comments here before I go on. Let's see here. Okay, so I don't know who this is. You have to give me permission to be able to see your name, but I'm going to read it. It says, "This is my son. He's nonstop spinning." Yes, yes. And that for kiddos, sometimes it can get them where they're overly stimulated, right? And then how do we help them get to a calmer place, right? Nonstop spinning. Okay, thank you for sharing that. So basically how the screener works is pretty self-explanatory, but you just want to rate each behavior that's below that you've observed in the child. Please consider the items carefully. A child may or may not display one or more of these behaviors. A high rating doesn't indicate any particular pattern. Use your best judgment, okay? And if you haven't observed this behavior, then just put NA on it, right? So if you're going to read this first sentence, this child touches furniture or walls when walking. And you would rate that. Is it 4 for frequently, 3 for often, 2 for sometimes, 1 for never, or NA? You've had no opportunity to observe that. Okay, so you would just go through each one of these questions and basically rate it. And so we'll go through a few of these. Okay, this would be at school or in the classroom, or honestly at home, since so many of us are doing school from home. Does your child touch the furniture or walls when they're walking? Does he lose his or her place on the page when reading? Does he have difficulty reading out loud? Does your child seem restless? Does the child invert his or her head? Which just means moving its head to side. Some kiddos, put their head on the side of their hand. They have a hard time even keeping their heads up. Does your child seek movement, which interferes with daily routines? Does he rest his or head in hands on the desk? Does your child have an emotional outbursts, okay, that seem uncharacteristic, that seem kind of out of the norm? When sitting on the floor, how frequently does your child avoid sitting cross-legged or sits in a W position, falls onto another student, lays down, or rocks back and forth or side to side continuously? Okay. While sitting in a chair, how frequently does the child rock back and forth or side to side, wrap his or her legs around the chair, falls out of the chair, slumps in the chair, or sits on the edge of his or her chair. Okay, you might be getting quite a bit of these for your child, especially if they're having sensory challenges. Okay, and this last section is when playing at recess, PE, or during free time, how frequently does the child avoid moving playground equipment, have difficulty on playground equipment like slides, ladders, or climbing equipment? How often does the child spin, rock back and forth, or jump? Does the child avoid physical activities or team games? Does the child bump into other students or has a difficulty time calming his or her body after high movement times? Okay, so what you would want to do is just quickly do this assessment, and this will give you an idea if your child has some vestibular dysfunction or has a vestibular system that is not finely tuned. Okay. And this can be helpful. This is something that you could bring to your child's therapist. You could consider getting a sensory pathway or doing some of the specific movements I'm going to talk about today. So let's see if there's any more questions. Oh, it's Allie. Hi, Allie. Oh, that's really interesting. My kid tilts his head when he's reading. Yeah, that can also just be an instability in the child's core as well. So many kiddos who have a weak core or weak muscular system, actually, it gets really tiresome to keep their heads up. Okay. Let's see, what about rolling on the floor during circle time? If they're constantly rolling, then they need the input. That's why they're rolling. Most kids do the thing that's going to help them feel better. Okay, so a kid who's running around in circles, sitting still makes them feel uncomfortable. And so they're running around in circles. Okay, so helping them get organized movements that help integrate the sensory system is going to help that kiddo be able to sit still better. What about not being able to sit in a chair while eating or always eating on their knees far away from the table? Yes, so they're having some sort of, and this is something that you would ask an occupational therapist. I am not an occupational therapist. I do not have Candy on here right now. I wish she was here. We could ask her these questions. But a child who is always sitting on their knees, it probably gives them more stability in their trunk to feel comfortable to eat at the table. So that's something to consider as well. If a child has a weak posterior support, can that be caused by the vestibular system? Gail, tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that. What is your child having a hard time doing or participating in, if you would tell me? So how would you help the child that needs to be moving around, but it is disruptive to the class? Well, if this is still Allie, you know about the rhythmic movement, so that's going to build a really strong foundation. Number two, if that child needs to move, you could give them specific movements to do that will help emotionally regulate them. That's what the sensory path is actually for. Okay, so giving them activities to have them slowly, if they're really, really ramped up, you can use the sensory pathway to slow them down by doing the pathway slowly. So you want to give them specific activities that they can do to help get that input, to get the energy out, you could do core work with the child, doing sit-ups. They could be doing wall push-ups. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. He can't sit up without some kind of back support. Yes, so that's going to be the core. Many kiddos have a weak core. Okay. I'm not sure if he's going to any occupational therapy right now, Gail, or not. But a few things that you can do for the core that's really helpful is to do sit-ups, is to do planks. Those are really helpful for the core. And also, let me think. I'm thinking horseback riding, but that's that's kind of a big commitment. Horseback riding can be really helpful for the core. So anything that helps strengthen the core of the body is going to help them be able to sit without back support. The sensory movement helped them by doing those movements, but then hypes them up. How do you get them to calm back down? So if the movements are hyping them up, then they're getting too much movements of the rhythmic movements. It's too much movement for them. So what that would mean would be recognizing when they start going overboard. Okay, so more does not mean better for those kiddos who are already really dysregulated. So I would encourage you to do activities that you could do the hookup, which I've shown you before. You could do cross crawls really slowly. The slower you can do a cross crawl, the more organized the vestibular system is, the more organized the brain is, right? So I'm lifting up the opposite knee and touching it, okay? So this would be an activity that you would do with that little kiddo, really slowly, okay? Standing while swinging, like this, like twisting like this. Oh, standing while swinging on a swing. Yeah, that's really smart. I like that. How can we calm the child down enough to start pathways? My niece is so ramped up that she can't even go through it slowly. She doesn't like to do mindfulness and breaks down when I try to get her to calm herself. Yeah, cross rock or cross crawl, they're used interchangeably. Yeah. So if your kiddo is ramped up, a few things is recognize when are they getting triggered and becoming ramped up? What activity is happening right before they start exhibiting this, okay? And then also doing activities that are slow. So you would just encourage the child, hey, let's do this pathway slowly. I'll do it with you, right? So if some kids don't like to do the breathing, that's okay. Even just going for a jog or doing some sort of activity that they like to do that can be more measured and thoughtful about it. So it's just doing things slower as well. So the idea with the pathway is not at all for them to do it quickly. It's for them to do it slow and steady. Okay, that's where they're going to get that input for the balance. Yeah, so and the other part is, how are you approaching your little one that's got a lot of energy? If they've got a lot of energy and they need to focus, then we need to help them get that input that they need by going for a walk or doing the pathway, right? Or doing a hookup. Or for those who like to do the breathing, they could do some breathing exercises. They could do some yoga, right? And recognize when an activity needs to be shifted. So technically every 10 to 15 minutes, kids actually need a brain break to integrate the information that they're learning. So a brain break could be as simple as doing a wall push-up. I can show you right here. You just put your hands on the wall and just pushing it back and forth like this. Some kids will actually put like some math problems here on the wall. They can look at that problem, and while they're thinking about it, they're getting this proprioceptive input. It's not difficult for the kiddos because they're up against the wall. They don't need a ton of muscle, but they're going to get that input. For kiddos who are really, really having a hard time calming down, sometimes they need some proprioceptive input, which could be the wall. It can also be where you slowly, it's kind of bright right there, where you slowly massage up their arms. This is something I would have to do for my daughter when we would sit in church because she just could not sit still ever. You could give them a hand massage. You could teach the child to roll their ears, okay? Sometimes our kiddos are running around in circles because they can't feel their bodies in space very well, and it creates a level of anxiety, okay? You can, another way to do some proprioceptive is you could do a tug of war with a sheet. You could put couch pillows on their back and roll a yoga ball on their back that helps give that calming pressure, right? So if they're not able to do the pathway, they probably need some proprioceptive input. Now, I know Allie is on here, and she shared that she has a swing for her son, and the swing would just get him ramped up. But she discovered that now that he has a vibrating toothbrush in his mouth, the swing will actually calm him. Okay, so each child is so unique and their needs are so special that it's just going to take some trial and error for you guys with your kiddos, okay? But if an activity is ramping a kid up and you need them to calm down, oftentimes the proprioceptive input through massage or even just gently rubbing their back while they smell some good smelling oils. I love the strawberry oil, is something that you can do. Good, the ear rubbing. Okay, did that with my son, but didn't think to do it with my niece. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Let's see. Everything triggers her. She is very high on the spectrum. And every time I try to get her to slow down, she can't handle it and breaks down. Can you tell me who this is? Can you give me permission to see your name? Whoever said everything triggers her. Or just tell me in the comments who that is. It should just be right above this live. It just says click on it and it'll give StreamYard permission for me to see your name. I would love to know who that is. Okay, so you have the strawberry oil, but your niece doesn't like it. And what you're wanting to do is find a smell your niece likes. So if you have other smells that she likes, even if it's a lotion smell, you want to find something she really likes that she can smell. So for me, like even a lotion that has a nice smell to it. I got this at Walmart, coconut, oh, you can't see it, coconut hibiscus. So any smell that your child likes, because many times our uniquely wired kids have really, really heightened sense of smell. So they might not like very strong smells. So find something that they actually like, even if it's peanut butter, it doesn't really matter. Something they like, and a really gentle kind of claw on their back. Okay. What that does is that naturally releases endorphins, and it helps our kiddos that don't know how to calm themselves down be able to do that. Okay, let's see. Oh, it's Tiffany. Hi, Tiffany. Okay. She's high on the spectrum, and every time I try to get her to go slow, she can't handle it and breaks down. Yeah, so she just might need her own calming corner for her to go into where she can be alone in more like a cave-like area that would have some things in there that would be comfortable for her until she starts to feel more of that safety and have that as an offering, right? If your child's struggling, you can say, hey, we have the sensory path that might be helpful. We have the calming corner or your calming space, right? Or maybe you want me to rub your back, or maybe we want to do a hookup. Right? So you're going to be trying these different things with your kiddos to see which ones are going to help them that day, because we're all different, right? Like we don't want the same food every single day. Kids aren't necessarily going to use the same activities to help them calm down. Do you think adding aromatherapy to a classroom would help in that sense? Absolutely. Yes. Now, you also want to be mindful of how it might be affecting other kids. So make sure that if you're going to add some to the room, make sure that the kids know to come and give you feedback, because if it starts to really bother them, especially those who are uniquely wired, they're the ones that are going to smell it. So if you have some that are more particular, you might have them help you pick something out, right? Or just offer, like if they want a little bit of, antibacterial lotion that smells good, right? One of the great ways, and I have it here on my notes here. Let me see. Oh, that's cute. Let's see these other ones. Uh-oh, I'm putting these on here. Or would it not be productive if it's running all the time? I don't know that it's not productive if it's running all the time, but you might need different ones for different times of the day. And again, being really mindful of what your kiddos are feeling. Okay, so maybe in the morning, it's more, you know, you need to be more calming or more alerting. So different ones do different things. Lavender is more calming, peppermint's more alerting, right? Orange, strawberry, all those different types of things. So yeah, definitely ask. Let's see if there's anything else here. Yes, Jen says, from my understanding, scents can also enhance learning. Yes, absolutely. And Tiffany says, my nieces are very sensitive to smell. We do have a calm down corner for her, and it has this magnet block for her to use and a weighted blanket and a ball to sit on. Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, just recognizing what's going to help your child, and you just kind of move with them, right? And you find other things that they might like. Introducing new items and new techniques outside of the moment when they're calm and things are easygoing and relaxed. That's definitely key. And I know you know that, Tiffany. Gail, my kiddo likes his head rubbed and he will stroke my hair. Oh yeah, that's wonderful. And then Tiffany says, I use them and switch throughout the day for different times or what's going on. Awesome for those smells. Thank you, Tiffany. That's awesome. Okay. So now what I want to share with you real quickly is, let me look this up. I'm going to share it. So, Sensory path. That's pretty funny. Okay, so I'm just trying to pull up a picture real quick. And I already put this one on. Let's see, I'm going to open this guy with. Thanks for your patience, guys. Your patience. Oh, let's just open that. Perfect. I'm going to show you the DIY sensory path here. I think this will be helpful for you. For those of you who would like to do a DIY sensory path in your home. And then I'll also show you the I'll show you the sensory pathway itself. So I'm going to share the screen, show this to you real quick. All right, so take a look here. So this is the DIY Whole Brain Sensory Path. And this is basically some of the pictures for the pathways. And these are the ones that I've done in my gym and I've done at elementary schools that have been really helpful. The tape comes up very easily. It doesn't leave a residue. It's really easy and user-friendly. You just, pull it and clip it and cut it and put it down. So these are some different activities that are really helpful for kiddos to help integrate the sensory system, to improve focus, and to help with emotional regulations. And so this is the actual PDF that I have for sale. I don't think I have the next page here. I don't. It's only the first one, page 1. So these are some things that we do on the walls that can help with the eyes and tracking with the eyes. This one here, I don't think you can see my cursor. You probably can't. These are heel to toe activities. Then we have wall push-up activities. We have different marching activities or jumping and turning while you move, which also puts the head in different positions so that they can help fine-tune the vestibular system. So inside of this has all the instructions, what each thing does, what it's called, and how it helps integrate the sensory systems, how to get it down, how to kind of measure out the area, how to decide what to put in your home or in your classroom. So it's really user-friendly. You just would order the tape on Amazon. Pretty simple stuff. Okay, so let me take that off now. Very good. And then I'm going to look up sensory. You would think I just had it up. because I've looked at it so many times this weekend and preparing for this. So funny. I'm going to pull it up different. Whole brain. Just looking for the visual. Oh, portable. I know what I'm doing now. It's called the portable sensory path. So funny. Okay. I am going to share this one now. Thank you for your patience again. Okay, so I'm going to show you this one. And actually, I have a few videos that I can post over the next day or so, and you can see kids using this actual pathway and also the DIY pathway. It might be interesting to you. But so this is a 4x10 piece of banner material. So it just rolls out, and you have a number of activities on here. And the goal of this is to have the child move their body in space and also to have their head in different positions. That will help fine-tune the vestibular system, okay? You want to do these things slowly. That's going to give the best input. So we have jumping with 2 feet, as you can see this way, and then we also have some blocks, these blue 6 deep breaths, right? Doing jumping jacks or doing squats. So you're going to get some proprioceptive input. You're going to be doing some deep breathings, but you get to decide between those. Then we have these little swirly guys that kind of look like a lollipop. And those ones really have a lot of input for the vestibular system. So you want to spin very, very slowly and only 3 times. And those basically are done with the head in different positions. So you might have the ear to the shoulder this way. You might be looking down while you spin, looking up, or looking this way, okay? So that puts the head in a different position. And again, what that means is that that liquid on the inner vestibular system is, and those little tiny crystals in there are giving unique input that otherwise your child may not be doing things with their head like this very often. But it's putting in more input, helping to integrate it and more finely tune that vestibular system can be really, really helpful for the child. Now, if you go up here, there's this line that goes right down the middle and it looks like a vine, and that's a heel to toe activity that helps again with balance. And you do this without looking. So it's being able to feel your body and where the next foot needs to go. Okay, so there's lots of sensory interpretation there going on. Then we get back here to the bottom, and then you have the hopscotch, okay, that takes you up here. And then each one of these is actually a proprioceptive activity where the child turns his back toward the ladybug and the sunflower and is basically stomping on those items backwards, okay? Does a couple things. Number one, it gives proprioceptive input into the legs, so the brain knows where the body is. You also have to move your head around a lot to see where the next spot is to stomp, which helps with the vestibular system, okay? And then there's these last 2 orange boxes where they get to choose. They can march with really big arms, which is kind of a cross lateral movement here, or they can swing like a helicopter, which is just basically letting their arms swing back and forth. It's actually really relaxing if you ever want to loosen your lower back and your upper back. This is an awesome activity. I love it. It's one of my faves. And then the other block, it says name 3 things that you're grateful for. Okay, so this one is portable, can go anywhere, really easy to just pop in the closet or pull out of the closet. Really helpful. So I know Jen put the links in there, and I'll make sure and post those again inside of the group. Let me see if there's anything else. You posted the oil. Cool. Jen, if you could post the link for the sensory paths again, that would be helpful. Question, would you use this on a daily basis before entering a classroom for the day, before naps? Yes, on all of those. In fact, many of the schools that I've worked with, they actually allow the kids to go and do the sensory pathway when they need a break. right? So just like having like a bathroom break, they made little cards that said sensory path, and they would grab the card and they would go out and spend 5 minutes on the sensory path, right? Number one, they get to be with themselves. They get to take a break. What they found is with 5 minutes of movement, a child can actually attend in class for up to 30 minutes. So having brain breaks every 10 to 15 minutes is super helpful. Obviously, the older that child gets, the longer they can sit and study. But there's been quite a bit of research done on just doing physical movement. The child can sit down and study for another 30 minutes. So on the way to class, absolutely. During breaks, for a kiddo who might not be wanting to take a nap, you can go through the sensory path with them. Make it something that you do together. That's a really powerful way to use the sensory path as well. It's not so much like go do this thing and fix yourself. It's like, here's a tool. Can I do it with you? Let's try this way. What do you think about that? Let me see if I can do it, right? Creating those connection opportunities and giving options on movement. Okay. It's good for the skin, metabolism, relieving aching muscles. Let's see. Cool. Someone says, what does strawberry oil do? We do lavender oil at bedtime on a rolling thing for skin as well as in the diffuser. The strawberry oil is just basically a pleasing oil, and Jen looked it up. Good for the skin, metabolism, relieving aching muscles. I particularly like it because it just smells good. The idea is to have the child smell something that they love, that really smells great, and having them smell it for quite a while you rub their back or give them input into their arms, okay? That's gonna help them calm down for sure. Perfect. Okay, I think we're to the end of this. This was like, I had all these things going on for this live, but it's been so good to be with all of you. Thank you for showing up today. I'm so glad I got to share about literally one of my most favorite things to talk about is the vestibular system and movement, how it feeds the brain and how it connects the learning centers of the brain. It's just incredibly powerful. I will post some more things for you over the next couple days. If you have any questions or would like to purchase the portable pathway or the DIY pathway, the links are here. Really easy. What happens is usually when you order the portable pathway, what I do is I go ahead and I order it from the printer and they send it straight to your house. It's usually there within the week. So if that's something that you want, I know someone just ordered one recently for their, they have a summer camp and they wanted one for their summer camp. Some people get it just for their home, for their classroom. For teachers, if you don't have a ton of space, but you would like to use it, the portable one's incredibly convenient for sure. Okay, great. All the links are also in the announcements as well. Awesome. You guys, it's been great to be with you here today. Next week, I've got a few announcements. In 2 weeks, starting today on Monday, is going to be the Contention Cure Workshop. So if you know anybody that you would like to invite to come and learn over those 3 days about the tools to help cure the contention in your home, make sure you get signed up for that. We're going to start putting that link here. If you want the workbook, you need to sign up for it so I know who's actually coming to it. I'm also offering clarity sessions after the live portion, which means you get to be in the Zoom room with me while I do each of those 3 days. Then when we turn off the live, then we actually get to have some of you guys in the hot seat. I can answer your questions if you would like me to. I can help go deeper into the information because it is different than the Quiet the Contention workshop. So you can also sign up for that on the sign up page. That is $19 for 3 days. I think it's actually 3. I think we're doing 4 days of the clarity coaching. So if you would like a little bit more help digging deeper within the principles of the Contention Cure, go ahead and sign up for that and you get to be in there live with me. Super excited about it. It starts in 2 weeks, so make sure you get signed up. I know those were a couple wins that Jen had shared, and I don't know if I have them quite yet, but I'm gonna look at them really fast. Announcements. Jen's got them right here. She always has them together. Jen says, here's some of the wins that they had for today. I've waited 13 years to hear the words, "Do you want me to take out the trash for you?" And those words came from my 5-year-old yesterday. I love it. That's awesome. I've waited 13 years to hear those words. Yes. Do you want me to take out the trash? I love it. Wonderful. And then Heidi Franklin said, my son cleaned his room yesterday. And I would guess that he cleaned the room without too much challenges in that. So I bet that's a huge win for you, Heidi, as well. If you are interested, you can sign up during the workshop to get a free coaching session with me. That's going to be in the coaching corner. So think about that. If you would like to create a plan for you and your family, I'm offering those coaching corners for free during the workshop. So make sure you think about that if you'd like to get in there with me. We're also going to be opening up the Family Thrive Academy 2.0. We've got an incredible year-long program for all of those people who are ready to take major action in their family and help get those results that they're looking for. Of course, the Contention Cure Workshop and the Sensory Pathway. So I will see all of you guys later. Thanks for coming, and I hope you have a blessed week. See ya.